SuperTalk Mississippi Media production.
When banking starts to feel less personal, you know where to find us. Community Bank. Deep roots, local people, personal banking. Visit communitybank.net. Member FDIC.
Oh, yeah.
Good morning, Mississippi.
Everything gonna be all right this morning.
Mornings with Richard Cross.
Oh, yeah.
Here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Woo! Now, when I was a young boy, at the age of 5, my mother said I was gonna be the greatest man alive. But now I'm a man, way past 21.
Good morning. Welcome in to Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi. Thanks for being with us on this Wednesday morning, middle of the week, August 19th. Glad to be with you. Missed you the last couple of days. Good to be back alongside Will East. I'm Richard Cross. Mornings is presented by Community Bank. Find them online at communitybank.net, but better yet, or maybe I should say do yourself a favor, find one of their branch locations all across the state of Mississippi. Community Bank, rooted in our community. Good morning, Will East.
Good morning.
Much as when I left you, it's still hot.
Yes, but I was telling Mandy this yesterday morning. I'm starting to see deer in the morning. I saw 3 yesterday. I saw 3 this morning. Smaller deer, of course. And I couldn't exactly tell because it's still dark outside. I passed them on the Natchez Trace, but I saw them. Thankfully, I didn't run into them.
Amen to that.
So they're starting to stir.
The deer right now are playing the nanny nanny boo boo game. Look at us. Here we are. We're everywhere, and there's nothing you can do about it. Ha, 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 nanny nanny boo boo. And then they'll become a little more scarce once you're sitting in a deer stand going, where is that dead-gum deer? It was they were everywhere. Yep. See them everywhere I look, and now that I'm looking, little less so. There are a lot of signs that fall is around the corner, but it is not in the air right now. North Mississippi today, sunny and hot, high near 99 degrees, heat index up to 105. Light northwest winds around 5 miles an hour. So if you are looking for a saving grace in that forecast, it's that the wind is maybe back out of the northwest now, as opposed to that southwest wind that we've had low tonight, mid-70s. Only a 20% chance of showers or thunderstorms. Monday afternoon, my wife sent me a video. I was out of town for a couple of days, and she was like, Richard, like the dogs just came running inside. Francis was like, Mama, it was this front. And she's like, the video does not do justice for how loud the wind is. It got dark, and it blew like crazy. Obi told me, he said, we were finishing up football practice, and it blew up like a little mini cyclone in the parking lot with dust, and then it was just gone.
Yeah, Mandy said that she was driving down some road and just saw like this dust cloud just form right in front of her.
Yeah. And then, back to being hot. Golden Triangle area, chance that you've got a little bit of fog this morning, so you might want to give yourself an extra minute or two. High around 100 degrees today in Starkville with 110 for the heat index. Winds out of the west at about 5 miles per hour. In the Jackson metro area, mostly sunny and hot. You've got triple digits today. 101 for the high with a heat index of 112. It's a little wind, only a 10% chance of a shower or a thunderstorm. And that would be late this afternoon, early this evening. Coastal parts of Mississippi, mid-90s, upper 90s for you with heat indices in the 106 to 110 range. And if you're looking for a break, I mean, can I offer you 92, 93 degrees for the high tomorrow? I mean, which, man, Obi and his guys, I mean, everybody else, all across the state of Mississippi. We got football practice going. We've got, with the MHSAA schools, practice being canceled left and right because the wet bulb temperature is beyond what allows them to keep practicing. But, man, you got a 2-week forecast, and it's highs in the 90s every single day. Although Monday, I do see one high in the 80s, which will feel like the North Pole if it only gets to 87 degrees. Oh, we'll keep an eye out and hope that you will continue to be cautious, especially those of you that have got outdoor activities or you're working outside. Rain chances remain low, not just today, but for the coming days. The intense heat will continue, so hang in there. Orville Wright was born on this day in 1871. We're not talking about the popcorn guy. We're talking about the first thing I thought of. Yeah. The aviation pioneer and inventor. Alongside his brother Wilbur, he designed, built, and flew the world's first successful powered airplane. Did so in 1903 at Kitty Hawk, North Carolina. Their work laid the foundation for where we are today with airplanes. Coco Chanel. I get that they're chasing this goal of, can we put a motor in this and fly? But nobody had really ever done it before. And I wonder how nerve-wracking it was.
How would you like to go up in a thing made of paper and wood? Because that's what the first one was made of, besides the engine.
Like
the engine
balsa wood?
Yeah.
Ugh. Coco Chanel, born today in 1883. The French fashion designer and businesswoman that founded the Chanel brand. She revolutionized women's fashion with simple, elegant designs, popularized the little black dress, and created the iconic perfume Chanel No. 5.
She also not invented, that's not the right word, she popularized the suntan. Before 1920, basically, if you had pale skin, that was the way to go because that meant that you didn't do manual labor. Dark skin, tanned skin was seen as something that working class people had.
How about that?
She got an accidental tan. She fell asleep out in the sun one afternoon, got a tan, and popularized it.
I was like, oh, this little black dress looks better against my olive complexion skin than it does against the pale white skin.
True story.
Still popular today. Tans, that is. Gene Roddenberry, born on this day in 1921, the television writer and producer best known as the creator of Star Trek. Series and its many spin-offs introduced progressive themes of exploration, diversity, and technology that influenced science fiction for decades to come. Great Mississippian Gerald McRaney, born on this day in 1947. He was Major Dad, among lots and lots of other things. He was born in Collins. Simon and Simon. He also appeared in a whole bunch of films. And he was in House of Cards, if you watched that Netflix series years ago.
He was great in House of Cards. He was a villain in House of Cards.
Really was. Yeah. Yeah. He was the rich Midwestern guy that was, his role was kind of based on the Koch brothers, I think.
Yeah. But he played a great bad guy.
He did. He did. He was a bird watcher.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bill Clinton was born on this day in 1946. 42nd President of the United States, former governor of Arkansas. Economic growth, probably the highlight of his, well, I don't know if that was the highlight of his presidency, but it's part of what he did while he was in office. Still involved with the Clinton Foundation. John Stamos, born on this day in 1963. Uncle Jesse, actor and musician. He was on Full House and the sequel Fuller House as well. Loved the Beach Boys and has performed with them as a drummer and a guitarist along the way. The late Matthew Perry, born on this day in 1969. He played Chandler Bing on the hit sitcom Friends. Gone way too soon. And Ian Gillan, born in 1945, the Deep Purple singer. Also Leanne Womack, born on this day in 1966. We'll look at some things that have happened on this day. Got news headlines for you this morning. Your morning sports update. A high school football team in Mississippi is on probation. Give you the details on that. Glad to be with you. Wednesday morning, August 19th. It's Mornings with Richard Cross, presented by Community Bank. We're back with you right after this.
Start your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
She's been playing at a room on the strip for 10 years in Vegas. Every night she looks in the mirror and she only ages. She's been reading about Nashville and all the records that everybody's buying. Says I'm a simple girl myself, grew up on Long Island.
Good morning and welcome again. Mornings with Richard Cross. C-Spire text line is open to you, 601-879-4395. So much happening at C-Spire as we roll back into a new school year, including the One Plan. That's fiber, home internet, and wireless for just $99 a month for new and current C-Spire customers. One plan, one price, one experience. Zero compromises. Learn more online at cspire.com. C-Spire, customer inspired. Against the Grain says Bill Clinton saw the financial light after Newt Gingrich and the crew of the 100-day contract with America kicked their tail in the midterms. He turned us away from Hillary care. Okay. Morning, Richard and Will. Good morning to you, James, in Oxford. Appreciate you checking in this morning. Somebody reminds us that Gerald McCraney was married to Delta Burke.
I think they're still married.
Believe that's correct. Delta Burke, designing women fame, among other things.
Let me look that up.
All right. Is today the day that Will tells us that Richard has passed from a heat stroke because he was too cheap to hire someone to do his lawn work? I'm joking. No, here I am. But thanks for your concern, Jason, in Starkville. Appreciate you checking in on me.
They are still married.
Okay.
Good for them.
Very good. Today in 14 AD, which was a long time ago, the Roman Emperor Augustus died at the age of 75. He was the first emperor of Rome and transformed the Roman Republic into what became the Roman Empire after the assassination of Julius Caesar. It was during the War of 1812 that the U.S. frigate USS Constitution defeated the British frigate HMS Guerriere off the coast of Nova Scotia. British cannonballs reportedly bounced off the ship's side, earning it the nickname Old Ironsides.
And it is still floating.
It is. Don't know that you would want to take it into war today.
No, but they actually have to maintain it. I guess the U.S. Navy still does.
At a high cost.
Yeah, it ain't cheap.
No, not at all. National referendum in 1934 in Germany gave Adolf Hitler nearly 90% approval to combine the offices of president and chancellor, granting him the title of Führer and consolidating absolute power. Turned out not to be a great decision for Germany or the world. 8 years later, in 1942, Allied forces, including primarily Canadian and British troops, launched the Dieppe raid against German-occupied France. The operation suffered heavy losses. Roughly half of the nearly 6,000 troops were either killed, wounded, or captured. In 1960, the Soviet Union launched Sputnik 5, carrying 2 dogs named Belka and Strelka, along with other animals and plants. They became the first living creatures to return safely from orbit, a key step toward human spaceflight.
I wonder what they end up doing with them.
I have so many bad joke responses that immediately popped into my head, and I think I'll just let them be. Donald in Kokomo says, I toured Old Ironside a couple of weeks ago in Boston.
Really?
Tell us more about that, Donald. That is cool.
Yeah, that is
very cool. Communist hardliners attempted a coup against Soviet President Mikhail Gorbachev while he was on vacation in Crimea. That was on this day in 1991. The short-lived putsch collapsed within days and accelerated the dissolution of the Soviet Union. Were you in an investing mood 22 years ago today? If you were, perhaps you made a purchase of Google in its IPO. The company raised about $1.67 billion in an unusual public auction format that was designed to give ordinary investors a better chance at buying shares. If you bought those and held on to them, your at least on paper return has been pretty good through the years.
Whoever would have thought?
Who would have thought?
Just think about it, Richard. Your choices were, I can invest in this company called Google, whatever that is, or I can go with Yahoo, which was an established player, AOL.com, which is, that's the big dog.
Mm-hmm.
Or I can go with Netscape or one of these other ones, and that's the one that made it.
Netscape was a big deal at the time.
Yeah.
Certainly ties with its founders to Mississippi.
But Yahoo was, they were the big dog.
Yeah.
And have you ever heard the story about how Mark Cuban bought the Dallas Mavericks with his Yahoo money?
Well, he started broadcast.com.
Yes.
Which was then acquired by Yahoo. And
basically broadcast.com was, we're going to put radio on the internet. That was their big...
What a concept.
What a concept.
That Google IPO, August 19th, 2004, $85 for shares. I wonder how many times Google has split.
Anyway, the Mark Cuban story is he wanted to buy the Dallas Mavericks, and he had gotten all this money from Yahoo, but he'd also gotten a lot of stock, obviously. I think most of it was stock. And so he decided to wait until Yahoo jumped up enough, the stock price jumped up enough to where he could sell that amount to buy the Dallas Mavericks, and that's how he bought them. He waited just for the stock to just jump up enough to cover his cost of the Dallas Mavericks. And he sold it, paid for the Dallas Mavericks, and then kept the rest of his stuff.
It's made a few pretty good business decisions since.
Yes.
There's been one split of Google's stock. Alphabet now is the parent company. It was a 2-for-1 split. So let's just say that you had bought 100 shares back around the IPO at $85 a share. Those 100 shares are now 200 shares valued at about $340 a piece. I mean, it's not the meteoric rise that you've seen with some stocks, but that is a pretty good gain through the years.
Yep.
All right, news headlines this morning, something that you heard Trent Kelly talk about with Mandy earlier this week. He is backing a bipartisan effort to overhaul the federal agricultural guest worker program, saying changes to the system are needed to ensure farmers have enough workers to plant and harvest their crops. He is an original co-sponsor, Trent Kelly is, of the Securing Agriculture's Workforce Act of 2026. It was introduced originally by the House Ag Committee Chair G.T. Thompson out of Pennsylvania. The bill would make changes to the H-2A visa program, which was established back in 1986 to allow agricultural employers to hire foreign workers for temporary ag jobs when domestic labor is unavailable. If passed by both chambers, the legislation would expand access to the H-2A program and make changes aimed at controlling costs and reducing the administrative burden of hiring workers. Among other changes, it would remove the seasonal employment requirement, allowing for year-round hires. It was introduced on June 30th and sent to the House Judiciary Committee. Mike Ezell, also a representative from Mississippi, has joined as a co-sponsor. There are 57 co-sponsors of this bill. Speaking particularly about the importance of this, Trent Kelly said that this matters a bunch for farmers in his district, home to the largest sweet potato producing region in the United States. Lot of red tape right now with the H-2A program. Been a lot of foreign-born workers from Honduras that have made their way to the United States, but especially in the case of previous administrations, it has been hard on farmers using this program. Just getting started with you this morning. We've got more news headlines, plus your morning sports update as well. Alongside Will East, I'm Richard Cross. This is Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
From Sumner to Summit to Summerall, Richard has something for you. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
They were farm kids way down in Dixie, met in high school in the 60s. Everyone knew it was love from the start. One July in the midnight hour, he climbed up on the water tower, stood on the rail and painted a 10-foot heart. And John Deere green, on a hot summer night, he wrote Billy Bob Love Charlene, and letters 3 foot high, and the whole town said that he should have used red, but it looked good.
Hey, Richard, I think your mic's muted.
Cowboys ain't easy to love and they're harder to hold. They'd rather give you a song than diamonds or gold.
Lone Star belt buckles and old faded Levi's, and each night begins a new day. If you don't understand him, he don't die young, he'll probably just ride away.
Mamas, don't let your babies grow up to be cowboys. Don't let them pick guitars or drive them old trucks. Let them be doctors and lawyers and such. Mamas, don't let your babies grow up to be cowboys.
This story I am about to tell you, the inspiration comes to me from the Lieutenant Governor of the great state of Georgia, Mr. Zell Miller. That's right. I grew up at Route 4, Liberty, Mississippi. The county seat town was a small town. Volunteer fire department. It was in the middle of the summer. Big drought, no water. Everybody knew if a building...
Thank you, Jerry Clower. I appreciate you providing the audio interlude. I do think, Will, that people are disappointed. Jeff in Grenada said, welcome to the Will East Show. Sean says, on this day in 2026, Richard has taken so much time off that he can't remember how to use the microphone. I wish that were the case. That is actually not the case. Thank you, Sean. Thank you.
You know your text of the day?
Yeah.
That's the one right there.
You think Sean is
I think Sean got it.
Sean is it. For reasons that I will not expand on the air. Not going to be many more days off between now and the end of the year.
I'm going to go ahead and let you guys in on a little inside baseball here. If you hear Jerry Clower, that means something's gone wrong here, okay? And it took me a second. For some reason, I couldn't find what I was looking for. But if you hear Jerry Clower start to tell a story, that means something has gone wrong, and we are biding our time till we can get it fixed.
You know, one more that we should add to the mix, in addition to Jerry Clower, is the old Andy Griffith "What It Was Football" skit. It was back last October, I believe it was. We was off in this college town holding a tent service. Oh, it's a good one. The problem is, if I had come back and that was playing, I would have just sat here and listened to the whole thing.
Yeah.
We would have all laughed about it together, and then we would have started up in just a bit. I thought that I was talking about a message that we got on the C Spire text line when I realized that I wasn't with you, and it had to do with that H-2A worker program. A message that said, so undercutting Americans and wages all in the name of cheap labor. America first, right? I thought we celebrated America first as Republicans. This isn't jobs for Americans. That is an opinion, certainly. It's really more like paying a fair wage to people that will actually work and providing them housing and transportation. Not sure if you have tried to hire workers for farming yourself in the last, decade or so. Not a real easy proposition. Not to say that there aren't able-bodied workers that exist in some of farming country in Mississippi, but convincing those able-bodied workers that do exist to come and work for a fair wage for an honest day's work, it's a little more of a challenge than you might think. Cheese packaging and transportation company Marathon Cheese is expanding its Boonville operations. They're going to create a few dozen jobs, investing close to $500,000 in Northeast Mississippi to expand their existing factory in the region to increase manufacturing capability, including a production line to increase cheese slicing and packaging capacity. So, new equipment to help cut the cheese. Marathon Cheese is headquartered in Marathon, Wisconsin. They originally opened their Boonville location in 1962. Total number of workers soon will be above 200. One student was hospitalized following a school bus crash in Columbus. The Columbus Municipal School District earlier this week reported that the bus was involved in a two-vehicle accident on Monday morning. Happened at the intersection of Winterset Drive and North Gaywood Avenue. Emergency personnel responded to the scene, including the school district's police department. Officials said there were 34 students on the bus at the time of the accident. All pupils, including a bus monitor and the bus driver, were examined, and there was one that was taken to the hospital for further assessment. Appears as if everybody is okay on that front. And finally, with news headlines, monthly reimbursements are now an option for recipients of the opioid settlement funds in Mississippi. And the next round of applications will open at the end of this month. The Opioid Settlement Fund Advisory Council made the decision last month to allow agencies and organizations receiving opioid settlement funds to opt for monthly or quarterly reimbursements. That is according to Michelle Williams, who is Chief of Staff for Attorney General Lynn Fitch. The Attorney General's office is the chair of that advisory council. About a dozen recipients of the funds opted for monthly reimbursements. Workload and the cost of that is going to go up, but it's not going to cause the program to need more money, as the contract with the Stedman Group allocated them up to $400,000. They were below that threshold. During last week's meeting, the advisory council also set the date to begin accepting applications for this coming fiscal year. All recipients must reapply for funding for fiscal year 2028. C-Spire text line, 601-879-4395. 601-879-4395. Thomas and Greenwood, in the 90s, we offshored all the manufacturing jobs so we could get cheap labor, and now we import cheap labor for the jobs that we can't export. Jason Starkville, able-bodied workers would prefer to live off the government. They aren't working in the fields. I've done that. It's hot. People want a free college education and a job starting at $100,000 so they can sit in their corner office and play on their phone or shop online. Look, I'm not vilifying the idea that we would prefer American workers to have jobs in America. I concur with that, absolutely. Problem is finding those people and having them show up day after day after day after day. Back with you after this. Mornings with Richard Cross.
In the Venable Glass. Morning, partner.
The sun is up, the coffee is on, and you're starting your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross, here on Super Talk Mississippi.
Time for your Mississippi Lottery update, brought to you by the Mississippi Lottery, online at mslottery.com. mslottery.com. Be sure to download the Mississippi Lottery app to your smartphone. It is free and available in the App Store. No jackpot winner with Lotto America, but a ticket that was purchased at Be Quick in Macomb matched all 5 white balls to win $20,000. Congratulations on that. Powerball beginning its slow climb. It is at $48 million now in the jackpot with an estimated cash value of just under $21 million. Mega Millions has gotten back to 9 figures, $113 million in the jackpot. The estimated cash value, a little over $48 million. Couple of winners, some nice wins, including a Grenada man that won $7,700 on a pair of tickets from Sprint Mart in Grenada. That was on Cash 4. mslottery.com is the website, and be sure to download the Mississippi Lottery app. Time for your morning sports update, brought to you by Pearl River Resort. Online at pearlriverresort.com. Pearl River Resort is your home for family fun, casino thrills, and live entertainment. We appreciate our friends at Pearl River Resorts, who were the presenting sponsor of the Not Fall Camp Tour. Borky and Haydad wrapped that up yesterday in Oxford, so stops in Hattiesburg, Starkville, and Oxford leading into the college football season. You are all set and ready to go. And if you missed any of the interviews from the Not Fall Camp Tour, you can grab them online at supertalk.fm. Brandon High School has been placed on probation for violating practice rules. MHSAA Executive Director Ricky Neves confirmed to SuperTalk News yesterday that the Bulldogs have been fined and placed on probation for 1 year for practicing in pads too soon. The amount of money the school will have to pay in terms of a fine has not been disclosed. Brandon is accused of having players wear pads in practice on August 13th, 2 days before that was allowed this year by the MHSAA. Of significance, the probation and the fine will not keep the Bulldogs of Brandon from competing in the postseason this year. The program faced similar penalties a year ago, but under the leadership of former head coach Lance Pogue. He resigned in October of last season. Eugene Clinton is now the head coach there. Brandon last year fell to the eventual 7A state champion Gulfport in, I guess it was the South Half Championship game. Lost that one. Let's see. Yeah, they beat Oak Grove to get to the South State title game and then lost to Gulfport. Clinton's team will begin their upcoming season against the state runner-up from the North last year. That is Tupelo on August 28th. How does that happen 2 years in a row, by the way?
I don't know.
It's pretty ironclad. You can begin practicing in pads on fill in the blank. This year it was August 15th. And for the second consecutive year, Brandon goes, we're going to go ahead. We need to get some physical work in. Don't know how that happens. And if and I'm not advocating that Brandon should be kept out of the playoffs. Certainly that's a penalty that the players would have to endure after leadership chose not to follow the rules. I mean, you're going to have a high school wide receiver who goes, Coach, I don't think we can practice in pads today. Coach says, you're right. You can run today. This one falls on leadership. But I'm not sure what the teeth to the ruling are if you are not, especially if it's a multiple-time offender, if there are not some teeth to it. Nevertheless. The NJCAA has released its preseason Division I top 15. Mississippi, as you would expect, pretty well representative. 4 of the top 15 come from the Magnolia State. Northwest Mississippi Community College, the highest ranked at preseason number 3. They went 10-2 a year ago. Their loss occurring in the playoffs against then number 1 Hutchinson out of Kansas. Mississippi Gulf Coast is at number 5 in the preseason poll. They went 9-2 last year. Colin checks in at number 9. They were a playoff team a season ago. And then East Mississippi, Buddy Stevens Ball Club, checks in at number 11. So those are your junior college teams in Mississippi ranked in the preseason top 15. Thanks for being with us on this Wednesday morning, August 19th. Coming up, we will jump into some of the national election results as primaries continue across the country. There is a former Anthony Fauci advisor who has pled guilty to concealing research records related to COVID-19. Who could have seen that coming? I guess he didn't get a blanket pardon. Lars Larson will join us in the 8 o'clock hour. Cheikh Taylor coming up in the 7 o'clock hour as well. It's Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, and callers on this show are not the opinions of TeleSouth Communications, its management, or advertisers.
No matter where you're from, Abbeville, Batesville, DeIberville, or any other ville in the SIP, you're starting your day off right. Mornings with Richard Cross. Super Talk, Mississippi.
Six short months we went together, decided it should be forever. 2 paychecks were better than one, a diamond ring, and it was done. Bought her a house like I said I would in a subdivided neighborhood. The views got short and the nights
Mornings with Richard Cross. Thank you for being with us. We welcome you to the 7 o'clock hour. Mornings is brought to you by Community Bank. Ever notice how some places still know your name? At Community Bank, that's how banking works. We're a bank that knows community because we live here. And when you walk in, you're more than an account number. No matter what your banking needs are, here you will talk to real people who care about your goals. Community Bank, a local bank built on relationships. Stop by your neighborhood location or learn more at communitybank.net, rooted in our community. The 7 o'clock hour every day is brought to you by MWG Employer Services. Running a business is tough, and if you're struggling with HR, benefits, and payroll, you're not alone. That's where MWG Employer Services comes in. Employer Services is what they do. They can help, and it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. They'll meet with you, listen to your needs, and put a custom plan together for you. Learn more online at MWG Employer Services or give them a call, 601-206-7966, 601-206-7966. Thanks for joining us this morning. Had the news headline about the H-2A program, which is for traditionally has been for migrant workers coming in to work in farming communities, and some of you have jumped in with thoughts on that. Stems from what Trent Kelly talked about as a potential expansion of that program that would do away with the seasonal workers and also eliminate some of the red tape around that program. And when I say do away seasonal workers, it would allow them to be annual workers as opposed to just coming in for a harvest season or a planting season. Thomas said he was comparing it to Texas and some of the jobs that have gone away in Texas, and he says this is why James Tallarico will win the Senate seat. At some point, we have to actually put America first, and that includes American workers. There isn't anything American workers can't do or won't do. The we can't find workers idea is the excuse to not have to pay market wages for workers. Same in technology as in farming. Another one says, if you can find American workers, your grocery prices would go up a third. All these good-paying factory jobs are great, but it's made labor costs double for logging, construction, and farming. Another message, the real problem is that the dollar has lost 40% of its overall value since 2006. A household pulling in $100,000 is now struggling to keep up until government stops spending us into oblivion and starts causing some deflation. There's really no point in debating farm workers making an honest wage. All right, this is anecdotal. It is not universal. But it is at least one real-life example. There was an investigator who was coming in and was visiting with a farmer in the northern part of the Delta and was talking to this farmer about potential violations for which he was going to have to pay a hefty fine. And there were some pretty trivial violations, but the fine was very, very real. And the investigator asked the farmer, why don't you just hire local people so that you don't have to provide the housing and you don't have to you just pay the wage? And the farmer said to the investigator, you got a minute? And the investigator said, he said, come get in the truck with me. And they went and they rode in this North Delta town and pulled up to a group that was standing on the street during working hours, but clearly not working. And rolled down the window and said, hey, got some jobs on the farm. You want to come work? And the response was an expletive-riddled, get the blank out of here. Again, that is anecdotal. That is an example. It is not universal. Here's the secret. Farmers who are looking for workers will actually pay workers pretty well that will show up and will put in an honest day's work. Maybe just that will show up. It may not even have anything that much to do with an honest day's work. But you got to show up on time, and you got to come every day, and the work is hard, and the work is hot, and the work is dusty, and it's not necessarily glamorous. And there are a lot of people that just don't want that because in many cases, some of the benefits that they receive from not working outweigh the sweat that goes with a hard job. So if you are a farmer and somebody says to you, well, man, you could just hire Mississippians if you'd pay them better. And the farmer says, okay, come with me. Come help me find the labor. I'll let you pick the salary. You help me find the labor force, and you help me find people that are going to show up day after day, who are going to take care of my equipment, and who are going to help us get the crop in the ground, make sure that water gets to it throughout the summer, make sure that the weed control is in place, and then help me get the crop out of the ground. You help me find those people if you fall into the, just hire local people work category. Because I would much prefer to hire people who are local and would be willing to pay them even more. Especially not to have to deal with the red tape of the H-2A program and provide housing and transportation to and from, whether it's from South Africa or from Honduras or from other countries across. Like, I'm with you. American workers is the answer. But if the answer is not there and you want me to continue to farm, give me a chance. Rusty says, I run a ranch and I cannot find workers. That North Delta experience, another message here. That North Delta experience is everywhere in the Delta for all jobs. Richard, you won't say it, so I will. They're getting every freebie and welfare benefit known to man. That's from Philip. C-Spire text line, I have a business in Clarksdale. I cannot find help. People get passionate about this conversation, and understandably so. And look, I am not making excuses for, at least in this particular conversation, farmers. But there's a difference between excuses and facts. Farming is hard. Farming's always been hard, but it's a different kind of hard today than it used to be. And there are things about it that are easier, right? There's not a whole lot of chopping cotton anymore for lots of reasons. One, there's not as much cotton. But two, technology is past that. In a lot of cases, you have people that are in an air-conditioned tractor cab. The air-conditioned cab on a tractor that costs $500,000 or a cotton picker that cost $1.2 million, or a combine that cost $900,000. Heavy, heavy equipment. It's not out just burning in the sun. Now, is it still hot? Yes. Is it still dusty? Absolutely. Those are undisputed facts. But it's not always this labor-intensive job that we envision where you're out with a hoe or a rake, walking one row after the next, removing weeds by hand. But regardless of the tasks, the willingness to work in those tasks, really, really hard to find in the farm community. Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk Mississippi, streaming at supertalk.fm and SuperTalk TV. Quick timeout. We are back with you right after this. Thanks for joining us on MRC.
I'm going through the big D and don't mean Dallas.
All right, now to the important stuff.
Your VIP pass to hear what the most influential Mississippians are talking about.
This is very important. Huge news.
Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk Mississippi.
Good to be with you this morning. Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi. C-Spire text line. Great talking points. But what are some answers? How do you create a system where people want to work and are willing to work? Probably not a popular answer. You cut welfare benefits. People who rely on payments from the government largely to not work. If that program goes away, those programs go away. And gosh, it's such a slippery slope because you go, okay, well, are you talking about entitlements? Are you talking about welfare? Are you talking about SNAP? I mean, like the entire system needs a massive reform. But when you incentivize people not working, guess what? They're not going to work. If Will doesn't get up and go to work every morning, Will doesn't get a paycheck. And if Will doesn't get a paycheck, Will has trouble paying his mortgage and buying diapers and baby food and going to the grocery store and filling up his car with gas. And so what does Will do? He gets up and he goes to work every morning. I suppose if things get bad enough for Will, then there is unemployment that he can get. But if you think that takes the place of a full-time salary with benefits, it doesn't. It's a deep, deep problem, but the federal government has created a multiple generational problem in which there are a lot of people that are incentivized to not work. And therefore, work ethic has gone away. I think you could argue that crime has gone up as a result as well. If you don't have to work and you're still being compensated and you just sit around with nothing to do, you find yourself getting in more trouble, I think. C-Spire text line. George in Greenwood says, I trust a single anecdote from a farmer who is so busy working that time won't allow him to write a text message to SuperTalk more than I trust Thomas's viewpoint. George, I appreciate that. I will say Thomas is a bright guy. And Thomas works a lot. He just happens to work from his vehicle a lot, I think. And I appreciate Thomas, but I appreciate all of you on the C Spire text line. Let's see here. Where do we want to go? Let's go here for a second. So we got election results in Florida. And you are going to have in the governor's race going forward. This is the race to replace Ron DeSantis. You are going to have Byron Donalds against Jolly, right?
No, Nixon. In the governor's race?
Yeah, in the governor's race in Florida?
Yeah. No, I'm sorry. You're right. You're correct. I was thinking of Senate. Sorry.
Yeah. The Senate piece is an interesting one in Florida.
That was the one that everybody was talking about last night.
And that's because Angie Nixon won the Democrat primary despite spending a fraction of the amount of money that her opponent spent. And she is she's a socialist. AP writes it this way. It's another major victory for the Democratic Socialists of America, of which Nixon is a member. She told the radio station WUSF she secured the Democratic nomination for U.S. Senate in Florida and chalks DSA candidate's success up to voter frustration with the party establishment. She joins candidates from New York and Denver that have made the same argument and have won. Now, on the flip side, Republicans are excited about Angie Nixon winning the Democrat nomination because they believe that the contrast that they can paint between Republicans and socialists is so stark that they win in an absolute landslide. Cheikh Taylor is going to join me coming up next. He's chairman of the Democratic Party in Mississippi and is a member of the House of Representatives. We're going to talk about that. I'm going to ask him about this role that the DSA is playing within the Democrat Party because Democrats have an identity crisis right now. Is the Democrat Party growing? Because it certainly feels almost inexplicably so like the DSA is growing. Democratic socialists are, maybe it's because they're grabbing headlines. Maybe it's because there are young people and college-educated people that are fleeing toward socialist agenda. But I don't know if the Democrat Party as a whole is growing. But establishment Democrats, even if they won't publicly admit it, are scared to death right now. Now, ultimately, the only thing that Democrats want, and it's not entirely different than Republicans, is to win elections. They can be as idealistic as they want to be in terms of party platform or whatever, but more than anything, Democrats want to beat the big bad Republicans. Are mainline Democrats, middle-of-the-road Democrats, willing to ultimately go along, not just with the talking points, but with the real ideology of socialism for the sake of winning elections? And how do you separate the two? Because I feel like Democrats in Mississippi, by and large, are different than Democrats in lots of other parts of the country. And I think other parts of the country. And I think that most Democrats in Mississippi would try to use words to separate themselves from, no, we don't believe in some of the ideas behind the DSA. But at what point, if you play for a specific team, are you able to distance yourself from what that team is without just still being labeled part of that team? I don't know the answer to that. And I'm hoping Cheikh Taylor can help shine some light on that when we visit coming up in a little while. Did you see this story that popped up yesterday? A former senior advisor to Dr. Anthony Fauci by the name of Dr. David Morans pled guilty yesterday to plotting to conceal federal records related to research on the origins of the deadly COVID-19 pandemic. I know you're completely shocked by that. That there was something that was happening internally that Anthony Fauci's team didn't want the public to know. Defense attorney Tim Belovitz said, by pleading guilty today, Dr. Morans has taken responsibility for what he did and he will continue to do so. He's accused of using his private email account to intentionally circumvent public records laws while employed at the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases. The Justice Department alleges that he concealed or destroyed records of discussions related to COVID-19 research grants, including an effort to revive a controversial coronavirus grant. You remember just a couple of weeks ago that Anthony Fauci testified before Congress and invoked the Fifth Amendment, protecting his right against self-incrimination over 100 times. Sir, what is your name? On advice of counsel, I'm invoking my Fifth Amendment rights. You can't tell us your name? On advice of counsel, I'm invoking my Fifth Amendment rights. What's your favorite color? On advice of counsel, I'm invoking my Fifth Amendment rights. But what difference does it make, really? Because he got a blanket pardon, preemptive, dating back to 2014. Back with you right after this.
Wake up, get up, and start your day right with Mornings with Richard Cross here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
I'm waiting on him.
The C Spire text line is open to you, 601-879-4395. Appreciate very much you joining the conversation on the C Spire text line, and I am also appreciative of Representative Cheikh Taylor joining us this morning. He represents District 37 in the Mississippi House of Representatives. He is also chairman of the Mississippi Democratic Party. Cheikh, good morning. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you, Richard. How are you?
Doing well. I appreciate you joining me. Let's start here. When are we going to see some names popping up for candidates for some of these statewide offices? Republicans seem to have kind of jumped out of the gate. There are a bunch of names out there, not just in the gubernatorial race, but in a lot of the statewide offices that we're now inside a year until primaries for. When are we going to see some names on the Democrat side?
Well, you'll see some names coming forth pretty soon. Now listen, let's get out of the midterms first before we start, kind of going through the minutia of all these names. Of course, we're going to have candidates. Of course, we're going to have great names, some old, some new, coming for our gubernatorial race and also some of the down ballot races and all. But the Democratic Party is intently focus on these midterm elections where we have opportunity to reelect folks like Congressman Vinnie Thompson and newcomers like Scott Colomb and Cliff Johnson and Michael Sciarratio, and of course one of my colleagues. Jeffrey Hullum. So listen, we're ready. We're locked and loaded. We know that we are on the right side of the policies that really affect Mississippians, everyday Mississippians. And we look forward to competing in the midterms. And you'll see us front and center come general election.
I have had the opportunity to visit on the air with some of those candidates and certainly appreciate their willingness to come on. I'm curious, what is the state of the Democrat Party in Mississippi today?
Well, that's an interesting question because we are constantly evolving, just like all political parties. And what I mean by that is simply this, that our message is growing. We're looking at the state of Mississippi as far as the 15 to 20 years of a Republican supermajority, a Republican trifecta, when it comes to the governor's seat, the lieutenant governor, Speaker of the House, and just about every statewide election being held by Republicans. So we're looking at a 15, 20-year track record and seeing where we can actually make policies better for folks in Mississippi who are hurting right now.
Why is Benny, you said an opportunity to reelect Benny Thompson in the second district. Why is he good for his district? Because there are a lot of people, and I know you've heard this, who would say that the District 2 is in the same place that it was 30 years ago, that there are not enough jobs, that people are hurting, that people have not moved forward. Why is he the right answer moving forward for District 2?
Well, he has to be the right answer because he's been the one fighting and advocating for millions of dollars to come to the state of Mississippi. Many of those dollars actually have been sent back by our Republican counterparts to the federal government. Listen, we get a 5-to-1 match for every dollar we get in the state of Mississippi that we send to the federal government. We get $5 back. And oftentimes, some of our other our Republican federal congressmen and women seem that we don't need that funding and end up sending it back to the federal government when we can use it here. In fact, me, myself, as a state legislator, wrote a piece of legislation that required that before the money is spent or goes back to the federal government, that we have the opportunity to make sure that we keep those funds here in the state. And if we can't handle it as state legislators or, that we give it to organizations that can distribute that money a little better. That piece of legislation never seen the light of the day. But
what money are you talking about? What money was allocated specifically for District 2 that has been sent back to the federal government?
No, not just for District 2, but for the state of Mississippi. When federal dollars are brought in, it's, yes, you can receive it for your district, but chances are it's affecting the entire state. Head Start is one of those programs under fire. Congressman Thompson continues to fight for programs like Head Start that gives children who are oftentimes disadvantaged the opportunity to have preschool education. And we dare not turn back those type of dollars. SNAP funding has been an issue in the past with Governor Tate Reeves when it comes to even with school after school programs and summer feeding programs. So, it's seeming to me that there's been an attack on programs that help the disadvantaged for whatever reason that is. We have to have people fighting and fighting for folks who are not only disadvantaged, but have an opportunity to change the state around, whether they are wealthy or not.
You know as well as I do that DSA is something that a lot of people are talking about, the Democratic Socialists of America. There appears to me, this is outside looking in, there appears to me to be an identity crisis within the Democrat Party about which set of ideas are the right set of ideas. Is it avowed socialist taking over the Democrat Party with a system that has proven to not work time after time after time globally over the course of the last 200 years? Or is it more mainline, mainstream Democrat ideas that seem to be popular with maybe more of the general population? And in fairness, I think the Republican Party has a similar identity crisis that has gone on multiple times in the hard right MAGA supporters with the more mainline Republicans, and before that it was the Tea Party with more mainstream, middle-of-the-road Republicans. What do you see when you look at the Democrat Party, specifically in Mississippi, as it pertains to these ideas of socialism and the Democratic Socialist of America and the role that they play in the Democrat Party?
Well, Richard, if I may, can we really frame the conversation
I'd love to.
About socialism? Because it's a very broad term. It's been thrown around since the Cold War. It's kind of a quick fix to framing an argument that sometimes seems to be very negative. Can you tell me exactly what socialist programs or policies that the Democrat is supporting that will be antagonistic to the state of Mississippi? Let's frame the conversation, and I could dive in a little deeper.
Well, I mean, I'm talking about the platform of the DSA as a whole, the Democratic Socialist of America. I mean, not a political party, but a movement, a self-professed movement where they talk about defunding the police, expanding the Supreme Court, packing the court as it is described, Medicare that goes across the board for everybody, socialized medicine, which has been a disaster of an experiment in Canada. But I think we all can agree our healthcare system should be better, regardless of how we go about that. Heavy on the criminal justice stuff, whether it's defunding the police or making it easier for convicted felons to get out of prison. I mean, we can go through all of the platform ideas if you want, but socialism historically has led to communism.
Well, I got to give a little pushback on that because, when we're talking about socialistic programs and policies, oftentimes we forget that we're talking about things like Medicare and public education and publicly funded roads and bridges. Our hospitals and our medical system right now is a socialistic program. Many people argue. There are a litany of things, Social Security being one of them. So if we're telling Americans, and we have to be careful, I think, Richard, we have to be very careful how we coin these phrases because these are the bedrocks of our society. Giving aid to farmers is considered a socialistic endeavor. And we know without farm aid, we know without shoring up our farmers, we know that we wouldn't have national security. So public education is very important. It is the sure, true, and tried way that our young folks and young families actually have a firm foundation and can go out and be great Americans anywhere in the world. When it comes to our medical system, if we don't really look at expanding Medicaid, we have no clue in how to solve the historic closing of our hospitals. As you know, 8 of these hospitals, 4 of them in District 2, CD2, are slated to close. And now I'm hearing new information that the number may be up to 24. So we need to keep these programs so we can keep Americans healthy, educated, our farmers making sure that we're fed and able to fight these wars. But more than often than not, socialism and those programs are the bedrock of our Mississippi American society.
Hold that thought. If you don't mind, let's hang on through the break, and we'll continue the conversation in just a couple of minutes, visiting with Representative Cheikh Taylor, District 37 and chairman of the Mississippi Democratic Party. We're back with you right after this. Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk Mississippi.
You're waking up to what's happening. Mornings with Richard Cross. Right now on Super Talk Mississippi.
Mornings is presented by Community Bank, online at communitybank.net. Community Bank, rooted in our community. Continuing the conversation with Representative Cheikh Taylor, District 37 and chairman of the Mississippi Democratic Party. Certainly appreciate your time this morning. We were talking about ideas related to the Democratic Socialist of America. You wanted to kind of frame the issue a little bit. I guess in response, I would say to me the fundamental difference between capitalism and socialism is, and some would say between Republicans and Democrats, is Republicans, at least in theory, believe in smaller government and believe that people can go out and build and earn on their own. And socialism, and maybe Democrats, believe that bigger government is better, that the government is better solving problems for you than you are for yourself. Is that an unfair characterization?
I don't think it's a balanced question that's being presented. Well, it's simply this. If the argument is that we need to remove some of the policies and some of these bedrock ideas of Medicare, of public schools, of roads and bridges, and we talk about having big government versus small government. But we know that no matter what party you're in, the government influences probably more than your life and you want to. I think the argument probably should be better framed as what policies work better for Mississippians at their dinner table and as far as them actually progressing and having an opportunity in life. Listen, neither party can guarantee success, right, of any individual. We set playing fields so people can actually be successful on their own. Now, I think the stark difference will be the investment, whether it's people or corporations that really define the difference in the two political parties. The state Democratic Party of Mississippi wants to invest in the people of Mississippi. Let's be clear about that with our policies. That means giving a working mother and a working family opportunity, if she's going to school or if he's going to school, if he is working, that he has the benefit of programs like TAF that provide childcare. On the federal level, we're talking about Head Start. And these are, seemingly, soft social programs. But these programs actually what makes Mississippians and other folks actually better than other countries because we have a firm foundation earlier than some other places. So if we're investing in people, we know that the investment has a huge return. Contrarily, if we're talking about investing in corporations like data centers per se, which is a hot topic right now, right?
It is.
And we know that they're coming no matter what. We know that these are billion-dollar corporations. But one of the biggest policy issues is how they're taxed. Richard, many of these companies are not even asking for tax breaks because they are uber rich to begin with. And as you've seen in places like Olive Branch or near the Tennessee border, that sometimes they're not even applying for permits to build. They could do this stuff after the fact because they have all this money. But we're asking, as Democrats, oftentimes that the tax code reflects where the people of Mississippi benefit for these corporations being here.
But let me ask you this. You represent Clay, Lowndes, and Oktibbeha counties, parts of those.
Yes.
You are in a part of the state of Mississippi that has seen not just economic development, but multiple counties coming together and saying, hey, this is how we grow as a region. And the results speak for themselves. The economic development has driven increased tax revenue. It's driven better schools. It's driven community investment. And some of the numbers that we're seeing for these data centers that you pointed to just a second ago are staggering when you look at the amount of money that could go toward public education and increasing the tax dollars for those schools. I don't understand why people are standing in the way or trying to stand in the way of this, given some of the issues that historically we've had in terms of dollars for education.
Now listen, Richard, I'm all for economic development. As you pointed out, our region of Mississippi is booming compared to other areas. And we don't, the legislators, whether Republican or Democrats, we work together. And we see the benefit, of course, of this economic development. But let's be clear. Data centers pose a very different structure. There are issues of environmental concerns, water consumptions, and also overburden our electrical grids, our power grids. and passing that cost along to the consumers and not to the corporations.
But safeguards have been put in place for that not to happen.
Well, we really can't tell right now, because what we're seeing from from the EPA is that a lot of times what goes into the air is being politicized. You know, that pollution has no borders. We can have better regulations. We can have more strict tax codes on these things, so we actually see the benefit of these companies being in our areas. And also, too, we can have former clawbacks that when these data centers don't achieve their goals in hiring, that the state of Mississippi clawbacks on the money that we've given them.
Hey, 20 seconds left. I want to give you the last word so that you're clear one way or the other. We talked and we kind of danced around the DSA. Are you in line with the DSA for Mississippi Democrats?
I am in line for Mississippi Democrats to be Mississippi Democrats. And
Thank you for your time. I'm sorry. I appreciate the answer.
Waking up Mississippi. From South Haven to Scuba, it's Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
It comes from Mississippi and down in Alabama, creeping like a fever all across the land. From deep in the Delta on the Louisiana shore, the people got to have it, they wanna hear some more. It's a hillbilly rock, beat it with a drum, playing the guitars like shooting from a gun.
Thanks for joining us. Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk Mississippi. Glad to be with you. You can join the conversation on the C Spire text line, 601-879-4395. The one plan from C Spire's here, fiber home internet and wireless, just $99 a month for new and current C Spire customers. One plan, one price, one experience with zero compromises. Get started now at cspire.com/oneplan. C Spire, customer inspired. Appreciate you being with us. Mornings is presented by Community Bank. When it comes to money, trust isn't automatic, it's earned. That's why Community Bank does things the old-fashioned way. When you come to us, we take the time to listen to you and discuss any questions you have. Whether you're saving, spending, or planning ahead, you'll find bankers who know the community because they're part of it. Community Bank, banking designed with you in mind. Visit us online at communitybank.net, or better yet, stop by in person and talk to the folks at Community Bank. C Spire text line, good morning. Just made it to my part-time job. I need to work full-time and have applied to close to 100 jobs in the past year and a half. I live in the middle of the Delta and keep moving my search farther away. Granted, I'm not searching to drive a tractor, but I could. Looking for more professional-type positions. Age discrimination is a real thing, and I'm not even there yet. Maybe this doesn't apply or fit the mold for your discussion earlier, but I'm sharing anyway. Enjoy your program. First-time texter. Thank you. I appreciate you listening, and appreciate the note. And certainly I don't know the specifics of your situation. It is, it may be a very real thing that in certain parts of the state that professional setting jobs are harder to come by than trade-based jobs. Here's what I don't know that you're necessarily looking for advice in terms of your message. But I would encourage you to check in with the folks at Accelerate Mississippi, the state workforce development arm. Courtney Taylor has been a regular guest with us and is an incredible resource. But the team that she has put together, they are working every day to make sure that Mississippians who want to work and are able to work have opportunities and have training and have the skills that they need to get into the jobs that are available today. So if you haven't reached out to the team at Accelerate, really would encourage you to do that. That's not a silver bullet. I'm not promising you that they've got a job that is waiting for you, but they do have people that care deeply about helping to grow the workforce in the state of Mississippi. And if you've been looking that hard for jobs over the last year and a half, and clearly you're willing to work, and you're willing to drive where you need to drive to get the job that you can get, you're looking for full-time work, I got to believe that they have resources that might be helpful to you. And if you're working part-time right now as opposed to full-time, it could be that there's some sort of skills training or a program that would help you be able to get a certificate or a license that would open more doors to you in the future. I'm not, again, that's not a promise of a job. That's not a here's a contract for your next work, but those resources are there. CC in Senatobia, I think this is a great message. There is a real problem when you have people legitimately screaming they cannot find help, and others who are legitimately saying they are applying for everything in sight and they cannot get hired. Something doesn't add up. CC, I agree with you. And I recognize that not everybody is a fit for every job opening, for as many reasons as you have time to name. But there absolutely is, as one texter says, a disconnect. And you know what? The next time that Courtney's on with us, I'll ask her about that disconnect. Because I know it's something that she and her team at Accelerate are concerned with. Like why is it that we have so many people saying there are jobs available, and yet we have people on the other side going, I cannot find a job? Are we getting those people into the same room? Are we connecting those people so that somehow we can bridge the gap between those two ideas? If not, we need to figure out a way to do that. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi. I appreciate Cheikh Taylor coming on. I hope he will come back on soon. Candidly, I thought he used a lot of words to not actually answer some of the questions. I asked him about socialism, and he's like, well, hold on. Let's frame what it is that we're talking about here. Fair? Fair. Problem is, we've got a finite amount of time in these conversations, and it's like, let's dig to some actual answers as well. My last question, do you align with the principles of the DSA for Democrats in Mississippi? And he said, I'm for Democrats in Mississippi for what's good for Democrats in Mississippi. Well, that wasn't the question. People want to know. Voters want to know. I think people that are part of the Democratic Party in Mississippi want to know. Does leadership of the Mississippi Democratic Party align with the platform of the Democratic Socialists of America? I sympathize and in some cases agree with Representative Taylor about some of the about some of the programs that he was talking about. I disagree with the idea that socialist programs are the bedrock of Mississippi. His words, not mine. I disagree with that. The hardworking people of Mississippi are the bedrock of Mississippi. I recognize fully that there are things that Mississippians need that are provided by the government. And dirty little secret, both Republicans and Democrats need some of the things that are provided by the federal government. I need to know more about all of the federal dollars that Mississippi is returning to the federal government and is not implementing. I thought that was pretty vague. And he said candidates are coming, and good candidates are coming. It is probably before long, need to have Scott Colomb on again. He is running for United States Senate against Cindy Hyde-Smith. Last time we visited was at the Neshoba County Fair. And I asked him about DSA alignment. And he was pretty dismissive of that. He quickly pointed to believing in Second Amendment rights and believing in law and order. Here's the problem. For political candidates to be endorsed by the DSA, they have to say publicly that they agree with the platform of the DSA. And the platform of the DSA is troublesome if you really dig into it. They want to do away with Congress. They don't just want to pack the Supreme Court. They want to get rid of the Supreme Court. The DSA believes in communal living. Everybody works to make money, and then it's distributed equally. Now, that's oversimplifying it, but that's the idea. That is not only anti-American, that is the polar opposite of what the founders believed about this greatest political experiment that has ever existed. Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk Mississippi. Always enjoy the conversation with you. We'll continue right after this. Got a bunch of your messages coming in on the C Spire text line, 601-879-4395. We're back with you right after this.
Playing in guitars like shooting from a gun, keeping up the rhythm, steady as a clock, doing a little thing called a hillbilly rock. Doing a little thing called the hillbilly rock. Doing a little thing called the hillbilly rock.
In the Venable. Want to know what's happening in Mississippi politics? Yes. You're in the right place. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk Mississippi.
He sends her roses and lines he composes, things a lady loves. Well, he's there to hold her when she needs a shoulder, if life gets too rough. Oh, now that she's left, I keep kicking myself.
Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk Mississippi. This is probably not as hard-hitting or as deep and as important as some of what we've been talking about this morning. But I had a touch of sadness and a big dose of nostalgia when I saw that after 70 years, Columbia House is finally shutting down. Now, there is a generation of people, Will East, that if I say Columbia House or BMG has no idea what I am talking about. But if you rewind one generation, everybody knows what we're talking about with Columbia House and BMG and remembers the oversized envelopes that used to come in the mail labeled to the resident of, they weren't individually labeled, in which you could get, depending on the time of year, 8 CDs for a penny plus shipping and handling, 13 CDs for the price of one plus shipping and handling, and one per month at regular price after that, or whatever the offer was. People loved it. Were you a subscriber?
I don't know about subscriber, but I did fall into that trap of opening up a magazine, and you would open up the magazine and you would see all the CDs that your heart desired, and they would have little check boxes by them, and you could check off, I want Nirvana Nevermind, or I want AC/DC, Back in Black, I want, Dark Side of the Moon, Pink Floyd, check it off. Send that in, and then a few weeks later, you're getting 5, 10 CDs back, and it cost you a penny, $1, I can't remember. They always had some little gimmick.
Sure.
And it was like magic.
And the idea behind it was, once you get your introductory offer, then they would send you a kind of a dealer calls CD of the month. And you would be billed for that CD at the full price. It was like, $13.98 or $19.98 or whatever the cost was. I actually remember that, and I don't remember if it was BMG or Columbia House, one of the two would provide a perforated lick and stick sheet where you had boxes on the order form, and you could, fold and tear out and lick the back and stick it on. And let's just say that it was, buy one, get 12 free. You could put all of those on there, like with little stick them with pictures, and then send them in. Now, there was a way to scam the system. And the scam was, you did the introductory offer, maybe you had to buy one CD, and then you canceled it. And then you would go to the other company. If that was Columbia House, you'd go to BMG, and you would take advantage of their introductory offer, and then you'd wait a little while, and you could go back and do it all over again with Columbia House.
So Richard Cross would be sitting there, and he's like, do I want the Titanic soundtrack? Do I want Shania Twain's Come On Over album? Do I want the Bodyguard soundtrack, with Whitney Houston? Which one am I going after? And that's how they got you in.
The Phantom of the Opera soundtrack, I had that.
I always went for the greatest. This is my thinking. I always went for the greatest hits albums.
Yeah.
Because that way
so you get a little bit of everything.
You get a little bit of everything. But what you don't realize also, too, about this whole little scheme was a lot of artists in especially the 80s and 90s, would put out crap albums. And these were usually well-known artists who had kind of gotten past their prime, but they would put out these crap albums that maybe had a cover song here, whatever, but it would be a platinum seller. And you'd go, well, who's buying these albums? You're buying these albums because you signed up to get that Nirvana Nevermind or that Alanis Morissette Jagged Little Pill CD.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, you're getting a Neil Young CD that you never wanted. And he's got a platinum album. That's, if you go back and look at it, a lot of those album sales were done that way.
That's outstanding. I'm just trying to think back through CDs that I got during that time. Led Zeppelin, was it 3 or 4? Stairway to Heaven and
4.
Okay, so Led Zeppelin 4, I think was the first CD I ever got. I don't remember if that was like a Christmas gift or if that one came from, I think it came from BMG or Columbia House. There were country CDs that were mixed in there, but also kind of the whole, like, Smashing Pumpkins, Counting Crows, REM, Bush, Presidents of the United States. I wasn't big into Metallica or Nirvana, kind of the grunge rock deal, so I didn't really go down that road a bunch. Some Jimmy Buffett stuff in there.
I don't know about, well, Jimmy Buffett was one I've got one of his CDs that I got in the mail. It was there's not a song on there that's, you have to be a diehard Jimmy Buffett fan to enjoy some of these. But you can tell we're just going through the motions of getting an album out there because we know that it's going to be a platinum seller because Columbia or BMG or whoever it is distributing this thing to all the boys and girls who sent in that 10 albums for 10 cents.
Stone Temple Pilots.
You know, what's weird is I don't know about you, but
Counting Crows.
For me, I was always about 5 years behind everybody else. So I was getting the Nirvana CD in 1996 when it came out in 1992. So I was discovering this new music, and it had been put out many years before.
Just got a message from a sitting member of the Mississippi legislature that says he still owes them 10 cents plus interest. I wonder how many people had their credit dinged because they took advantage of the BMG or Columbia offer and then got the bill. Because I don't think initially you had to put a credit card. I think initially they would bill you and you would send a check for the payment, and people just ignored it and threw that away and then ultimately had their account turned over to collections.
And again, that's what fueled a lot of these album sales in the 90s. You saw when that whole deal died down, that's when you saw album sales really drop.
Yeah.
And you have streaming added to that when you could stream music over the internet and Napster and all that kind of fun stuff. But this is what fueled a lot of these platinum albums that, you go back and look at some of the best-selling albums of all time and you see, Garth Brooks and all this kind of stuff. Not to say that people didn't go into music shops and buy those albums, but a lot of that was done because of this. So, yeah, you paid for that album through collections that would later come because you signed up for it.
This is great. That was Evil by BMG. I always chickened out because they wanted my credit card number. You're not a man if you didn't have Celine Dion's greatest hits. I'm having to send a money order to Columbia. I'm old. Yeah. I believe the statute of limitations has me covered on not paying at this point. So, honestly, I was surprised that Columbia House even existed. It was once considered or advertised as the Columbia Record Club. The mail order business has gone away. They were functioning as a shell of themselves, basically operating on some old Blu-ray DVDs, like DVDs and Blu-ray discs. I mean, the CD business is long since gone. But they've just kind of been hanging on. Not anymore. I guess they had a movie piece of it as well. You could do movies through Columbia House?
Yeah. Especially when DVDs came along, that first wave of everybody was getting a DVD player, and you would just see those I remember seeing them in magazines. You'd open up a magazine, and there'd be 2 or 3 throughout the entire magazine of different companies doing that whole deal.
Pour one out for BMG and Columbia House. They have finally kicked the bucket officially. I'm lumping the two of them together. I did not go to the trouble of looking to see if BMG still exists. I'm assuming they don't. Mornings with Richard Cross, about half an hour left with you. Coming up next, Lars Larson, host of the Lars Larson Show that you can hear on SuperTalk Mississippi, will join us. We'll hit on some of the big national topics as we roll on with you on this Wednesday morning. Mornings presented by Community Bank.
He says he loves her and he'll never leave her. Why didn't I think of that?
Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk Mississippi.
Welcome to the show.
Welcome again, Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk Mississippi. Thanks for joining us. I say Mornings with Richard Cross, at least for now. Lars Larson is my guest right now, host of the Lars Larson Show. Lars, I'm afraid that you and another radio colleague have inadvertently put me in a difficult position. It has come to my boss's attention that after our local statewide programming ends at 6 p.m., we go to the Lars Larson Show, which is followed by the Eric Erickson Show, and I am now being asked to change my last name to Richardson.
I think that's not a bad idea, and just make sure it's spelled O-N the way God intended. So,
Indeed.
No, it's a great pleasure to be with you. I was worried about that when you said maybe there were some changes coming up, because nobody likes changes these days, and our business is full of it right now.
Amen to that. I rarely stump you on anything, and I don't think that I will on this, but a topic that is intriguing to a lot of Mississippians. There was a court ruling that just kind of died a couple of weeks ago, and it had to do with the purchase and the tax exemption and the regulation of suppressors, or silencers, as some people call them in the gun world.
Yep.
The National Firearms Act has been in place for a very long time, dating back to the 1930s. It regulated the sale of short barrel rifles and suppressors and other firearms.
Machine guns. Yeah.
The state of Texas said, we're going to stand with gun owners on this, and they won. But different states have different laws, and there's some Mississippians that are saying, okay, what does this mean to us? I'm curious, as you look at this story from a national standpoint, knowing that states have different laws, what do you make of this as it pertains to the Second Amendment and gun owner rights and the ability to own weapons that are not, or own firearms that are not maybe as mainstream as some are?
I think you should be able to own anything. In terms of the suppressors, I think people should be able to own suppressors. I don't happen to own one, because when I had an opportunity to buy some a few years ago, they were hideously expensive. They have come down in price dramatically. And people should understand, they do not make your gun sound like the guns in the movies, a little spit sound. No, they just reduce the volume. They'll knock the decibels down enough that maybe you don't need as much hearing protection to be able to go to the range. So they have a very practical use, especially for people who are concerned about their hearing. And after, 51 years of wearing headphones, my hearing is not the best in the world anyway. But I think people should be able to own them. And I think an awful lot of the opposition to things like suppressors is not based on anything practical. The left simply hates anything concerning guns. And that includes accessories to guns. And that's what suppressors are. They're merely an accessory. So they're not a firearm, although for decades, as you point out, the NFA regulated them as though they were firearms themselves, and they're not. And so I think we should be able to buy them, and we shouldn't have to go through all the nonsense of a big pile of paperwork and a $200 fee to the federal government. What do you think?
I agree with you. So I'm friends with a bunch of gun enthusiasts, and I absolutely support not only Second Amendment right, but the ability to buy accessories. I have found myself debating some of the accessories, FRTs in particular, the forced reset trigger. I don't know if you've seen these or not, but I mean, you can put them on lots of guns, but specifically on a .22 pistol. And you can put a large magazine on there, and basically you pull that trigger, and in 3 seconds you can fire 30 rounds. And there's no practical application for it. They're a heck of a lot of fun. My son loves doing that on the range, and he's like, that's so cool. And I agree with him, but I also look at that, I'm like, okay, is that – because I get the slippery slope argument. People say if you put any regulation on firearm ownership or accessories for firearm ownership – you start down this road. You've made it easier once you say no that you can say no again and say no again.
Yep.
But I feel like common sense is not the worst thing either.
No, but here's the question. Do you have a right to own the firearm to begin with? Yes. Do you have a right to own things that were, and if the standard is, and the standard accepted by the courts now, seems to be whatever was in existence at the time. Were there semi-automatic rifles at the time that the Second Amendment was written? The answer is yes. And people who don't know history will say, oh no, it was all single shot,
black powder
rifles or shotguns. And that's simply not true. It doesn't match with the historical record. So what's wrong with owning a firearm that will fire more rapidly? And you say, because it makes it more likely to be used in a crime. Actually, take a look at the guns that the left tries to regulate, which is semi-automatic sporting rifles. I own a half a dozen AR-type platforms, and those are not used in crimes. I'll tell you what, Blunt objects are used to kill about 900 people every year in the United States. Do you know how that compares to deaths from a rifle gun, a shot of any kind? It's double. It's twice as many people are killed with a blunt object like a baseball bat or a hammer as are killed with rifles. What is the problem? If you want to say any particular type of gun is a problem, pistols and cheap pistols and pistols in the hands of criminals. Those are the ones that are used to commit about 10,000 homicides every year, most of them committed in about 2% of America's counties. So we know where it's happening. It's very focused in particular parts of the country. There are 4,000 counties in the United States. Half the counties have no homicides on average every year. And 2% of the counties account for something like 60 or 70% of all the homicides in America. So if the problem is violent crime, then let's go after the cause of violent crime. And most of it is disputes between various rival gangs. They're usually battling over turf or drugs, one or the other.
Lars Larson is my guest, host of the Lars Larson Show. Earlier this morning, Cheikh Taylor was on with me. He is the chairman of the Democrat Party in Mississippi, and he's a representative.
Wow. I can't get Democrats to come on my show, Richard. Congratulations to you.
There are a few that are willing. We had a good conversation. I asked him specifically about the DSA, about Democratic Socialist, and kind of alignment with Democrats in Mississippi, who I would generally say Mississippi Democrats are more, blue dog, yellow dog, old school, kind of the way we think of Democrats from the 70s, 80s, 90s, generally speaking. But there are others that are farther to the left and more in line with some of what we're reading about the DSA. And my question was, how do you make those two things line up? I mean, close to where you are in Portland, people that espouse DSA beliefs, they can shout it from the rooftop. They can shout it from the rooftop in Seattle and Chicago and New York. But I'm seeing more and more Democrats who are kind of like whispering from around the corner, yeah, I'm glad for the DSA endorsement, but they don't really like to talk about what is in that platform.
Nope. They don't want to own it. And Richard, they should be made to own it. Either own it or reject it. In other words, when the Republican Party, when conservatives, and I identify myself first as a conservative, second as a member of the Republican Party, because the Republican Party does disappoint from time to time. But if the Republican Party decided to own particular issues in a certain way, the way the DSA does, the Republican Party would have a choice. Embrace it and say, yes, that's who we are, or reject it. The Democrats are stuck in that quandary. They don't want to reject the DSA because if they do, they're telling everybody, we don't want the support of what appears to be a growing movement within the Democrat Party. And they're going to be stuck with it. And they're going to be stuck with the politics of Mamdani and Katie Wilson, the mayor of Seattle, who's a complete full-on idiot. This woman has never had a real job. Can you imagine this, Richard? Yeah. She's 41 years old. She has a husband and a baby, and she and her husband have never had real jobs in their entire lives, and mommy and daddy pay their bills. And now she's elected as the mayor of the 13th biggest city in America, and she's a complete screw-up because she's never had a job. I mean, she's never actually done anything, let alone run something. If you want to run a city that's a multi-billion-dollar budget with a big police force and a lot of other problems, you should have to have run something. She hasn't even run a popsicle stand. So how do you expect these people, when they're choosing people like that to be their leaders, and then their leaders come in with crazy wackadoodle ideas like, let's have free public transit and not charge anybody anything. Let's have grocery stores that underprice the market grocery stores by 30%, all paid for by the taxpayers. And every one of us looks at that and says, you know what? Lady Thatcher was right. Socialism's great till you run out of other people's money. And that's what they're going to do.
It's funny how often that quote keeps coming up, that Margaret Thatcher was ahead of her time. Like, this is a really good thing, right up until the point that financially it's not feasible anymore. You got time to hang with me for a couple more minutes?
Yeah.
Lars Larson, host of the Lars Larson Show. You can listen to him weeknights right here on SuperTalk Mississippi, after Sports Talk Mississippi. So from 6 until 9 each night, Lars available to you. We've got more coming up with him and your messages on the C Spire text line. Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk Mississippi. We're back right after this.
and the flame in your eyes. I'm born to love again. I'm a brand new man. Yeah, I'm born to love again. I'm a brand new man.
Now, what's happening across your state? Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Lars Larson, my guest, as we wrap things up with you this morning. It's Mornings with Richard Cross, presented by Community Bank. Thanks for joining us on the C Spire text line. Lars, there's a kind of a saying that people have used in sports for a long time, and it has to do with the big brands, especially in college athletics. And there's some people that push back about this, but generally speaking, people say college football is better when fill in the blank is good. Now, that doesn't mean exclusively those teams are good, but, you know, when Southern Cal is good, when Texas is good, when Ohio State is good, when Georgia is good. I think there's an argument to be made. The United States is better when our greatest cities are good, when New York City is great, when Chicago is great, when San Francisco is, which is such a beautiful place, is good. Some people might push back on that as well. Is there any going back or saving some of our great cities that are Democrat strongholds? There's no other way to describe it.
I think there is a way to save them, but what I fear is that we're going to have to do what individuals do when they've decided to wreck themselves. Usually it's drugs or alcohol. It can be other things, but drugs or alcohol wreck an individual. And at some point, they may hit a wall, metaphorical or otherwise, and decide to stop that damage and start to repair what they've allowed to fall apart in their lives. Other people go all the way to hitting the wall, and they overdose and they die. And so what I worry is that we're going to have to go to the point where those cities hit a wall that is so hard and does so much damage that you may not be able to repair it afterwards because nothing else seems to wake them up. I'll give you an example. Our main studio is in Portland, Oregon, which during the pandemic, during the riots of 2020, was ground zero. And if you turned on network news anywhere in America, you saw pictures of downtown Portland.
Yeah.
It's been a radicalized city. And right now, the thing has run down so far that the average response time, get this, Richard, they used to shoot for 7 minutes. If you called 911 and said something is burning, blowing up, or bleeding, you got response, they hoped, in 7 minutes. Sometimes it would be a little longer. These days, average response time to a 911 lights and siren call is 21 minutes. 21 minutes. And that's insane. And why? Because the number of police in the city is about half what it should be staffed at, according to the national norms. So how bad does it have to get before those in charge who've come to this with a philosophy about how to run a city, and part of that philosophy is get rid of the cops, get rid of judges that put people in jail. How bad does it have to get before people finally wake up and say, we can't keep going down this road? And they haven't reached that bad point yet. I'll give you an example, Richard. The biggest single signature building in Portland is 40 stories tall. It's the U.S. Bank Tower. And it was called Big Pink because it's all covered with glass that in the evening looks pink, during sunset. And it's 40 stories tall. It sold about a decade ago for $390 million. I call it $400 million. So round it to $400 million. That's about $1 million a floor. $9 million a floor. It just resold less than a year ago for $1 million a floor. That's how far things have fallen apart.
Wow.
Yeah.
And
how bad does it have to get?
Yeah, well, and that's the question, right? I mean, with going back to kind of the socialism conversation and DSA, when you look at the profile of the people who are making up this movement, it is not traditional Democrats. It is young, college degree, women in a lot of cases, all who have grown up in city environments. And you just, I hesitate to say educated, versus college degrees, because I don't know how with actual education you come to the conclusion that, hey, you know what, things are bad. I think socialism is the answer.
No, and I don't either, other than people say, gee, it'd be nice if somebody else paid the bills, except all of us who are conservatives understand there ain't no, as my favorite science fiction author, Robert Heinlein, said, there ain't no such thing as a free lunch, Tannstaffel, because there's no free lunch. So when somebody promises you a free lunch, you should immediately start looking for where's the real price tag on this deal. And if you can't find it, then that means somebody has hidden it very well. And that's what Mamdani and the others are promising, is a free lunch. And it doesn't exist.
Less than a minute to go until we get to the finish. Always appreciate your time, and our time is too short. As you look at the situation in the Middle East and Iran right now, what is your biggest concern?
My biggest concern is that we get this dispute with Iran over with, and that they end it by not just promising, but let us assure ourselves that they have no nuclear weapons. Presidents of both parties have said Iran cannot be allowed to be nuclear armed, and I agree. Obama said that. Trump has said that. Let's make it happen, and let's get it over with, and let's get oil back where it belongs.
Do you believe the will is there with President Trump to see this through, to get those concessions?
I have no doubt that there is. I don't see him giving up and walking away and calling it good, because that just kicks the can down the road to the next president. I think Trump will finish this one.
And it also makes the last 8 months completely a waste, or at least largely a waste. Lars, always appreciate your time and your insight. You can check out the Lars Larson Show starting at 6 p.m. Central Time right here on SuperTalk Mississippi. Thank you, my friend.
Always my pleasure.
And thank you for being with us today as well. Mornings with Richard Cross on this Wednesday. Glad to be with you. Presented every day by Community Bank, online at communitybank.net, rooted in our community. For Will East, I'm Richard Cross. Have a great day.
A SuperTalk Mississippi Media production.